Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Fueling the Future Bold Ideas to Power AEFL Week 2025. My name is Shaketta Thomas, and I am the board president for COABE. And I'm so excited to see everyone here. I get so caught up in the chat line, so I see Mississippi, New York, Alabama, California, Louisiana, Maine, and the list keeps going on, and it just makes me so excited to have all of you here in the room today. Adult Education and Family Literacy Week is a time to celebrate our progress and confront the challenges still ahead. And most importantly, despite all the challenges, is to lift up hope. Hope for our learners finding their voice, hope for families creating new opportunities, and hope for stronger communities built through education. Today's session is about fueling that hope with bold ideas, the kind of energy that inspires actions, sparks innovation, and empowers learners to reach their fullest potential. Whether you're an educator, an advocate, a partner or a friend of education, your voice, your vision are a part of this momentum that will carry our body of work forward. So, again, I just want to say thank you so much for being here, for sharing your passion, and for choosing to plant seeds of hope, hope that will grow far beyond our existence in this space together. We can empower one another, we can empower our learners, and we can empower and influence our decision makers. So I'm glad to have you here. And right now, I would like to turn it over to our CEO, Sharon Bonney, for welcoming and introductions. Sharon?
Thank you, Shikata. It's great to be with you all today. I'm very excited about this Adult Ed and Family Literacy Week. We know it's a critical time for our field to stand up and take action and to speak out for adult education. And we have a wonderful team that's here to help you with that. I want to say just a few words about the presenters. So Alysha Bold, who's joining us from Penn Hill Group, will be talking about the federal landscape and your role in the federal landscape. Bryan Seck, who is with Nebraska Literacy Lincoln Coalition, he is someone that I have worked with on the State Advocate Fellowship, and he just really surprised me when I was in the Invest in the Midwest trip and got to see him in action and the great work that he does every single day out there in Lincoln, Nebraska. And I thought he'd be a great addition because he can kind of speak to what it's like to be an administrator on the ground, working with local programs and trying to keep the funding going. So I thought that would be great. And then I had the opportunity to meet with Ashley Coles in person when I was in Bismarck, North Dakota, and really impressed with the local program that she runs and how it's been growing as well. And just really want to thank her as a state advocate fellow as well. And then, of course, Erin Vobornik, who is our initiatives director and state advocate for Adult Education Fellowship co-chair. She has just done a phenomenal job for COABE, and we're very excited that she'll be sharing a number of resources and tools. But most of all, we're excited that you're here. We've had over 350 that registered for this, and we're just excited about the impact that this will have on the field as each of you go out and do great things during Adult Ed and Family Literacy Week. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Erin. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. So, welcome again to our phenomenal webinar. And if you're looking at my background and you're thinking, I really want an AEFL week background, don't worry, I'll be telling you where to get that by the end of today's webinar. But we're going to start off with some level setting about what AEFL week is for anybody who might be newer to our field. I'll turn it over to Penn Hill Group to give us some federal priorities updates, and then I'll be turning it over to both Bryan and Ashley to share some bold ideas from the field, and then, of course, make sure you don't leave before you get all the tools and support that you need. And then we'll end it off by kind of our call to action and making our commitment to AEFL Week. So on the third week of every September, we celebrate Adult Education and Family Literacy Week, lovingly called AEFL Week. And it's a time for us to celebrate our successes and work towards solutions to our challenges. And today we're going to talk about how to do both, to celebrate and advocate, because those two words are not mutually exclusive. And I'm there. And please If you have not yet, check out our incredible Flood the Hill opportunity. So this is our second year of doing Flood the Hill, and this year we have so many individuals attending that we have completely filled up the hotel block that we had booked. So please, if you are considering coming to Washington, D.C. with us and joining us on the Hill on Tuesday, September 16th, please make sure that you RSVP for that event by September 1st so that we can ensure that we have a t-shirt in your size. And we've also just recently updated our Flood the Hill Q&A to include 2 nearby hotels that are economical that you can use to be able to engage in Flood the Hill, but also still be um, near the original hotel block. So at COABE, we aim to provide a variety of ways for the field to get involved in AEFL Week. And I noted Flood the Hill, but we also have the Rise and Shine podcast hosted by Jeffrey Abramowitz Monday through Friday of AEFL Week. We have our ongoing Educate and Elevate pledge that you can sign and share with everybody that you know. And we have a high quality webinar each day of AEFL Week that you can join from anywhere. Lastly, we have a web page complete with resources, which I'll share with you later in today's webinar. But before we dive into the ideas, tips, and resources, we would like to share some federal updates. So as Sharon mentioned, COABE has invested in the expertise of Penn Hill Group to help us guide policy development and analysis and maintain strong government relations to move our field forward. And so I would like to welcome Alysha Bold from Penn Hill Group to give us some federal updates.
Thanks so much, Erin. I am excited to give you all a quick federal update, but most importantly, to talk a little bit about why this moment is such an important one for our collective advocacy. I want to start a little bit by talking about current opportunities for advocacy. Right now, members of Congress are back home traveling throughout their states and districts. Many of you have probably even taken advantage of this by inviting your senators and representatives to visit your programs, meet your learners. So I just want to quick shout out to anybody who has done that already, and thank you. Those visits are powerful and they make a lasting impression. And for those of you that haven't yet, I also want to say that it's not too late between now and Labor Day. Take advantage of any opportunity to get in front of your elected officials to keep adult education top of mind before they head back to Washington. That could be inviting them to visit your site, meeting with them in their district office, or even talking to them in the grocery store. Any chance to share the importance of federal adult education funding is extremely critical right now. But looking ahead to September and an AEFL week, I just want to highlight that we have a lot of momentum to build on. Adult education funding for FY25 was finally released to the states in late July, thanks in large part to the advocacy of COABE and all of you. And so while state agencies are still working through the details of how to distribute this money and get it out the door to programs, Congress is already shifting its focus to FY26 funding. Some of you may know that on July 31st, the Senate Appropriations Committee marked up its Labor, Health and Human Services, Education and Related Agencies bill. I know, a mouthful, but it included flat funding for adult education state grants and, most importantly, rejected the administration's proposal to eliminate federal funding for adult education altogether. Next up, the House of Representatives will need to produce its own version when they return in September, meaning AFL Week is perfectly timed for us to push for robust adult education funding for FY26. For context, the federal fiscal year ends on September 30th, meaning Congress will need to pass either a final appropriations or funding bill or a continuing resolution, which is frequently called a CR for short, in order to avoid a government shutdown. Based on history and the limited remaining days where Congress is in session, we can say with near certainty that there will be a CR or a shutdown and that negotiations will continue into the fall. So while our advocacy during AFL week is extremely critical, it's important to know that it's just the first step, and you can expect COABE to call on you for advocacy help until FY26 funding is secured. The last thing I want to note is that the bipartisan Adult Education Works Act was reintroduced earlier this year in both the House and the Senate. You may recall that many of the provisions of this bill which makes critical updates to WIOA to strengthen adult education, were included last Congress in a bipartisan agreement to reauthorize WIOA. While this agreement ended up falling through, and you'll get more information from COABE in the next couple weeks about their ask. COABE is continuing to look for additional co-sponsors for the Adult Education Works Act, so that when Congress revisits WIOA reauthorization, we can show the strong bipartisan support that adult education has and make sure that these provisions are included. So that's a little bit about what's going on here in Washington, D.C. And I know you all are going to do great in your advocacy during AFL week.
Thank you, Alysha from Penn Hill Group, for sharing all of those updates. And I know that many of us have been watching federal happenings more carefully, considering our funding woes this summer. But as we transition to hearing about some great advocacy happening in the field, I did want to level set with some general advice to advocates. So while most of us probably identify with a particular political party or ideology, it's really important to frame our adult education advocacy through a bipartisan lens. Our adult learners are in the crosshairs of a lot of these policies that are being debated in DC and our state capitals, and we really need to appeal to both sides of the aisle to move these policies that are favorable to adult ed forward and ensure sustained funding. Additionally, part of appealing to any audience is having a story of success and data to support it. So I like to say that a personal story reveals the heart of adult education, how it transforms lives, while data shows the scale of that change, demonstrating its impact across communities. Having both is key to effective advocacy. And then lastly, be creative in your advocacy connections. So people who have influence, or dare I say influencers, are not only our elected official. Consider who else has a respected voice in your community and reach out to them to share the impact of adult education. You can ask them to join you in celebrating AFL week at your local program. And I'd love to see a collective brainstorm in the comments. Who could you target as an influential person, either in your state or in your local community? And I understand you might be throwing out names nobody else knows outside of your community. But I want you to take a moment and in the chat, go ahead and type in who has a respected voice in your community who you could reach out to help amplify and celebrate AFL week alongside you. Oh, okay. I can tell who's from the same community because I see a couple, a couple similar names, organizations. Fantastic. Chambers of Commerce, County Board of Supervisors, legislators. Fantastic. And I hope if you're unsure that you can look into the chat and think, I hadn't considered perhaps the district superintendent. I hadn't considered the a mayor. I hadn't considered the newspaper as being these particular voices of respected influence. So thank you for sharing those ideas in the chat. If you're like me and it takes you a moment to think and type, feel free to keep flooding that chat with ideas. And while you do that, I'm going to kind of move on to some of the exceptional advocacy that is being done in our field. And I would love to introduce Bryan Seck. As Sharon noted, the executive director of Lincoln Literacy in Lincoln, Nebraska. And as Sharon noted, Bryan is well respected and connected within his community. And so, Bryan, I'm going to turn it over to you to kind of share how you've built that connection and what advice you have to our local organizations and advocates.
Definitely. Thank you, Erin. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Okay, great. It's always worth asking before you start talking for 30 seconds. So my name is Bryan Seck. I am talking to you from a 1999 Ford F-150 with a stick shift and manual windows and manual locks in Lincoln, Nebraska. Population 300,000. We're about 10% foreign born. Lincoln has been a refugee resettlement community since the Vietnam War ended in 1975. Fast forward to today, Lincoln Literacy serves 2,250 adult learners from 87 countries. We also serve about 600 kids in our child minding services. We have 8 community sites, churches, schools, and nonprofits that we partner with, that we teach classes at. So when we're thinking about building relationships, I moved to Lincoln, Nebraska from New York City. I worked in Manhattan, lived in Brooklyn 14 years ago. I was working for a consulting firm. I traveled to Nebraska for a site visit. I met my now wife in the hallway of the University of Nebraska, and I quit and I moved out here. We went on 5 dates and got married. The reason I tell you the story is I didn't know anybody when I moved here. So I don't have, I didn't go to high school with our city council people or anything like that. So I think that context is important because I think today I feel very confident providing some best practices, at least for what worked here in Nebraska, on how to interact with officials. What I always think about is if you see number 1 there, I always think about city council, your county, what state agency that you work with. We work with our Department of Education, but for example, we also work with our Department of Labor, Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Economic Development, and then also trying to find a contact in your governor's office and your federal delegation. Now, I know, and you know, that this can be a pretty frustrating time right now for those of us, especially who are working with immigrants and refugees and seeing some of the policies that are coming out. And that's just a reality. I think that we have to have friends on both sides of the aisle, and I think we can acknowledge that what's going on is hard. And the reason I say that is you need to be friends with everybody. It's really the time to make a contact in all of these places. It doesn't have to be the city council person. It can be their assistant. It doesn't have to be the county commissioner. It could be the person who works with them in an administrative position. I've worked with federal delegations for the last, I'm 44, so 20 some years. And what I've found is when you're talking about federal delegation, there's aides that will work with, for us, Senator Ricketts, Senator Fisher, Congressman Flood. These aides come in 2 varieties. One is the lifer who's worked with the senator before this and before this and before this, or it's a brand new person who's like 22 years old. I would say you have an opportunity to make an impact with both because the aides are who matter so much. So we had Senator Ricketts' team come visit us at one of our sites. That was not popular, some of our staff members, and I said, I don't care how you feel about Senator Ricketts. I care that he's on committees that are important for Lincoln literacy, and we need to show him why it's important. And I think people understood that when we explained it in a higher level of this isn't just about your feelings, staff member, whom I respect. This is also about how do we work successfully with our elected officials. So anyway, they came. Turned out one of the new legislative assistants who just got hired is a Lincoln literacy tutor. We have 200 volunteer tutors. I had no idea that she was Ricketts' legislative assistant. So when we're thinking about who is working on these staffs, it might not always be somebody that is exactly politically aligned with their principal, with their boss. And we had a wonderful visit. They also brought somebody from their staff who I've known for a long time, who's not as friendly to what we do. And I watched that aide eat into this other aide's cynicism towards us for an hour as she kept telling her coworker how awesome Lincoln literacy is, how much she's learned the tutor, how much it's made her understand culture of different places, and how it turns out she likes Burmese food. Who knew? True story. So when you're really thinking about building these relationships, I would really encourage you to don't be intimidated. Don't be thinking, well, this person doesn't agree with us. Invite them to come out, like Erin said. We've had Senator Fisher, Ricketts, and Flood's staffs come visit us. I haven't got them to come themselves yet, but they've come out to visit us. Our county commission gave us $750,000 to buy our own building. They had some leftover ARPA money, they have some gambling money, they helped buy our building. So when we're thinking about how to talk to your elected officials, I think thinking about it at all levels is really important. And I saw someone put in the chat that our students should do it too. And I will tell you yes, but with caution. Our students are very passionate. They're also just learning English. That can be a dangerous combination when we're trying to have a very level set, somewhat delicate conversation. So if you're going to bring students, I think that's cool. You're going to have them talk to these folks. I think I would just be very thoughtful about how you do that. What we do is we have visitors visit the class, and then I will tell you I control it a little bit. I will ask the students like, hey, what are you guys learning today? Where are you from? And depending on the level, because our classes are beginner, intermediate, advanced, all in one building. So I would just say, if you're going to do that, just be thoughtful about it. Second thing is, and I promise I won't talk your ear off forever, is really be brief about your mission. We could talk about what we do forever and ever and ever, but it's an excellent chance that the aides or the elected officials, when you say Perkins, they think it's a breakfast restaurant, not an educational program. So just be very thoughtful about how you talk about your program, keep it short, and then ask them questions. I think the number one superpower that I try to use is the one I learned from Ted Lasso, which is be curious, be endlessly curious. Why did you get into this? How long have you worked with a senator? Have you ever seen an adult education place before? Did you know that 10% of Lincoln's foreign born? So really like ask them questions. And what I always try to think about, and I try to remember in my head, and I go back and write it down, is what interests them? And then when I can follow up with them when something else happens down the road and say, hey, Marie works in Ricketts' office. Hey, Marie, remember when we talked about that thing and you said you were interested in this? This is happening. What do you think? Last thing, number 3, ask them for information. Your city, county, state, governor, and federal delegation are there to answer your questions. And there's no better way to get a teenager to talk to you than to ask about them. Hey, teenager, what do you think about this in your life? They'll talk your ear off. For all of these elected officials, asking their aides to get you information is really helpful. So I've asked our federal delegation to track down, for example, how many immigrants in Lincoln, Nebraska are on SNAP. They're about to get cut off SNAP. So really thinking about that and getting information from them really gets you an opportunity to not be a person that's yelling at them necessarily. It's about a person who is asking for their advice, but also that those delegations can come back and ask you for advice. In the last 2 years, I've had all 3 of our federal delegation ask me for information about what we do so that they can explain it in a local context. So becoming a local expert is really cool. So last thing, just develop the relationship. I know this is hard right now. I know this is the point where some of my staff don't understand, don't agree that I'm talking with these folks and having these conversations. And I got to tell you, I just don't care. Now is the time that we have to maintain the relationships. And I'll leave you with this. Senator Deb Fischer is very conservative. She hasn't necessarily supported adult education in the past. However, when Sharon and I visited with her staff, we asked her to vote for or to join a letter to release the $7 billion of adult education. And she did. She signed on to the letter. And I believe that we had a part in that because she heard from a local person, me, and a national person, Sharon, that that the $7 billion is something that's important, something that she should support in the state of Nebraska. And she did. She was one of only 12 senators to sign on to that. So I just really appreciate everyone hearing me out. My email is bseck@lincolnliteracy.org. My cell phone number is 402-541-9988. I'd be happy to talk to any of you. I do not think I have all the answers, but Sharon reached out to me, and I just wanted to share a little bit what I've learned. So, Erin, I would kick it back to you, and I'm really honored to be in front of you all. Thank you very much.
And Bryan, I just want to chime in real quick and say thank you for hosting me when I was in Nebraska. Bryan is so connected. He's not going to tell you that, but that's what I saw with local councilmen, his state legislatures, his governor's office, all of it. And it was so amazing to see him walking the halls with confidence and really talking to everybody that he possibly could about adult education. So thank you for all you're doing in Lincoln, Nebraska, Bryan. We really appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Okay. And I will say I see some great questions in the chat, and I know we'll probably get some in the Q&A as well. And please know if you type in a question and it doesn't get an immediate answer, we are downloading all of those. We will get you answers to those and we'll share those back out as well with the follow-up information. Thank you again, Bryan, for sharing. We are now going to go further north to North Dakota, where we're going to hear from Ashley Coles. Ashley's a coordinator at Bismarck Adult Learning Center, and she hosted an impactful tour of her program when Sharon was in her Invest in the Midwest trip. And so Ashley is going to share how to replicate that tour and some other advice related to local programs. I'll turn it over to you, Ashley.
Thanks, Erin. So I'm not as well connected as Bryan is, but I do want, when we have people come in, I want them to remember us, right? Like we literally have 2 small hallways in a big college building. That's all we have. So like my first picture here, so when you come down our hallway, we have a celebration board. Okay, so this was last year's where it says, GED grads and EL gains. That's everybody's first name for the year that's, made that accomplishment. So when Sharon came, she could see that, oh my gosh, you had 44 graduates and 43 EL gains, right? Like that's big for us. And then for our students to see their names on there is also very exciting. So we just started school 2 days ago, right? So our new board is up and just ready for us to put the grad hats on and the stars. And then every time, somebody walks down our hallway, they see that. They see that's what we do here. And then that we celebrate our successes. Another cool idea that we tried, so that picture of the map. We have all of our EL students, I have little pin flags, and they write either their initials or their first name, and they put a pin in where they're from. And it puts conversation into, them with each other. But then when other people come in and they look, say, wow, you guys, you have students from Senegal, you guys have students from China, we have students from around the world. And I don't think people, not everybody comes here from Mexico, not everybody comes here from the Congo, right? Like we have a vast variety of people and we want other people to see that. I also like to have, like Erin said, have something ready for them, right? Like data. So I always have like our 1-page data sheet, and that's the front and back of what is that on the slide. So that was actually created by our state. And that's just, we call it our 1-pager, right? Front and back. Above that is the link to what we call our road to success. And that is, it's just like a 10-page little booklet per se, okay, it's in the link now, where you can see what we do, and then that's where we have student stories. So we have 8 adult learning centers and corrections across North Dakota, and every year we each put in 1 or 2 student stories with their picture, so that our students are getting, their story out that way. This is my 3rd year here as the coordinator, which is the same as director, we just call it coordinator. And our ALC has kind of fallen under the radar, really, in Bismarck and in our state, and we fall under a public school, which is K through 12. So I just really kind of want to step up and, we're proud of what we do and of our students, and I just really want to get that out. So I do try to do events, like that picture of me, that's at a library, where they do resource fairs. And then our corrections, I'm going to the state prison next week. I've gone to the women's prison. I've gone to the juvenile corrections, and just getting, the information out there. Like if you don't finish your GED here, we are where you come next, right? If you have, somebody doesn't speak English, right? We have all of our information is also like in a couple different languages, right? I was just at one of our big manufacturing employers last week because they had a big safety event, right? And I had all of our information in the top or the most common languages, at their facility. So I think it's just really getting out there and just trying to meet people. Even if you don't think they have connections, they might. Also, I got on all the newsletters for like our representatives, right? And I got an email one day, from our congresswoman saying she's going to be in town and she's taking office appointments. And I was like, okay, awesome. It was first come, first serve, type your name and whatever. Well, I got an appointment and I was all excited. And they said I had 10 minutes. So I went in there with our congresswoman. I had 10 minutes to just lay it all out there. And I brought the road to success. I brought our 1-pager and we talked. And before I could even invite her to come tour, she said, hey, next time I'm in town, I would love to come tour, your school, your organization. And that's awesome. And maybe she wouldn't even have known who we are, had I not just kind of reached out on a whim, like, oh, maybe I can get a spot, maybe I can't. And when I thought I'd have like a half hour and it's 10 minutes, and I was kind of disappointed. Well, we ended up dragging it out to like 15, and we could have talked for hours. But she like genuinely seemed interested. Okay, so like I live in North Dakota. We have one representative in Congress, but you know what? We're gonna make the best of it. And I felt heard. I felt that she has our back and is supportive. And if she goes back and talks to our two senators, right, like it's just getting our information out there. So like I said, we don't have a big facility, but when people come, we want them to remember us and what we do. And yeah, that's kind of what we do here.
And Ashley, I'll just chime in. What was great about North Dakota, they're North Dakota nice. They're
Yeah.
the nicest people, but they're giving you all the facts and details, so organized, do such a great job. You also have a really great state director as well. Really
Mhm.
appreciated Sarah Mitchell and all she
Yeah.
did to prepare when I came. I mean, she had us meeting with everybody you could possibly imagine. It was great. And we actually met the incoming Assistant Secretary, Kirsten Basler, who
Mhm.
then put in a good word for adult education with the Trump administration. And so it was really great. I want to also thank you, Ashley, for just what you're doing. You're doing a great job. You have a wonderful program, and thank you for hosting us there as well.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, so thank you again to both Bryan and Ashley for joining us today, sharing your knowledge with us. And really two different perspectives, right? One perspective of like going out there and making those connections, the other perspective of like how to build it at your program to bring those influencers, so to speak, in once you have those connections made. And again, everybody will be getting a copy of the slides, the recording, the links to resources. So look forward to those in your inbox within the next 24 hours, I believe. So at COABE, we've invested a lot of time and energy into sharing essential information with you through our new resources. So every resource that I'm going to focus on right now is connected in some way to AEFL Week, but they also can be found on COABE's AEFL Week webpage or our Flood the Hill webpage. So I'm going to walk through what each one of them are so that you have an idea of where to go for whatever specific information you're looking for. So our Flood the Hill, um, what you need to know is our Q&A document. So again, hopefully after listening to Bryan and Ashley, you're thinking, wow, I need to get involved. I need to do something. Um, Again, if you can make it to DC, we would love to have you at Flood the Hill. We're going to have a breakfast with legislative champions in the morning on Tuesday, then a legislative briefing that's going to be a packed room, followed by meetings on the Hill, and we'll be taking care of all of those logistics for you in terms of meetings, so you don't have to set them up yourself. You just need to register and let us know what state you're from so we can make sure to put you in with representatives from your state. So all of that information is there in the Flood the Hill, what you need to know guide. If you cannot attend the Flood the Hill event in DC with us, consider flooding your state hill if your state legislature is in session, or engaging in other statewide advocacy. So we have our state advocacy toolkit that walks you through a variety of different ways to engage in statewide advocacy. And then if you do have a state legislature that is in session during AEFL week, there is also that guide, how to launch a Flood the Hill event at your state capital, and you can use that to do exactly what it says. Next, if you're not a state advocate for adult education fellow, which we call SAFE, or on your state association's board of directors, you might not be in a position to be leading your state's advocacy events. You might be thinking, I don't have capacity. I'm not sure that I have the team or the connections to make that happen. That doesn't mean that you cannot make an impact. So COABE's AEFL Week Toolkit will share the keys to a successful AEFL week with key legislative priorities, links to everything you need, including super cool backgrounds like this one, and a sample walkthrough of a typical legislative meeting. So if you've never had one before and you think, I want to have that meeting, just kind of need to know what it's going to look like before I even reach out, all of that is in there. Now, if you're looking for a deep dive into how to talk about adult education, you'll want to check out our 2025 Legislative Talking Points document. It includes 15 talking points with graphics and the research and data to support each. You can use it to craft your social media posts, speak to people who have influence, or also just learn more about this field that means so much to all of us. Right? I worked as an adult education teacher for 15 years. And so in my heart, I know that these facts and things are true, but being able to point to that research and to also go back and read it myself has been really enlightening. So I encourage you to take a peek at that. And that's a phenomenal resource just as you're preparing to talk about adult education, whether it's to individuals within your program leadership or beyond. Maybe you're ready to level up your advocacy and talk to the press. If that's true, we've got two different resources for you. The first is the Media Outreach Toolkit. This toolkit has information about how to connect with the media and influence their coverage of adult education. And you can find information on how to craft press releases and much more. So if you're kind of unsure exactly what the different media options are, this is a phenomenal resource. Once you get the attention of the media, maybe you're asked to give a quote, or better yet, maybe frighteningly, an interview. Then what do you do? Well, you can turn to our Media Ready toolkit to explore how to talk about adult education with the media. It also includes some tips just about preparing yourself for those opportunities when they do come your way, so that you feel prepared and confident and are able to step in and feel good about that media outreach. We also have our Lead the Way toolkit. This is ideal for those all-star advocates who want to get state and local leaders involved in AEFL Week but don't know how. This toolkit was written with state and local leaders as the audience. So it's a toolkit for you to share with them. So it has sections for governors, state legislators, chambers of commerce, workforce boards, and mayors. So there's something for everyone in here. So reach out to one or more of these audiences, share this resource with them, and ask them how they would like to celebrate AFL Week this September. Kind of breaks down according to what their roles and their responsibilities are. It gives some ideas of different ways that you could ask them to get involved in AFL Week that aligns with the kind of what their position is. And again, if you can align it with their position, they are probably more apt to actually saying yes. So it's a great resource for that if you're thinking, I have a great mayor, I just don't know what to ask them when I'm asking them to get involved in AFL Week. So you can use this toolkit for those ideas, but it also can be shared directly with your state and local leaders. Now, if you feel like you're out of ideas for how to bring AFL Week to your local program, we have a Spark sheet for that. So you can read through some of the ideas in that Spark sheet. They're really meant to be as accessible and low cost as possible. And that way you can kind of bring the AFL Week joy to your adult learners who help to make this field great. And it's really something that can be done in conjunction with the adult learners that you serve in your programs. And lastly, like I said, as a teacher for 15 years, so I know without a schedule, it's really easy to let things fall to the side. And so that is why we created an action tracker so you can plan out your AFL week and stay accountable to your goals. So you've already completed the first thing by doing the webinar today. So congratulations, you can you can mark that off of your action tracker. So both of these resources are great to bring to your programs, even bringing to your program student advisory council, bringing for adult educators, bring it into your classroom and say, like, how could we celebrate AEFL week here in our classroom? What's something that you might want to do? So it becomes a shared celebratory event. Okay. Now, every year I leave this AEFL week prep webinar feeling energized, but also kind of full to burst from the information shared. So I know I just went through like 10 different resources that we have. You heard all of this incredible content from Bryan and Ashley, and you're probably buzzing with different ideas, but maybe also feeling a bit exhausted from maybe too many ideas. So if you're looking for 5 things you can do today and where to find them, look no further. These 5 things are also listed out on our AFL Week webpage, so you can find them there as well. So, number 1, now's the time to start talking about AEFL Week. So, if your program or state association has a newsletter or website, you can find a newsletter and a website blurb in our AEFL Week toolkit that you can share. Number 2, plan ahead now. So, you can schedule social media posts to go out in advance. So, basically, I did this one year and it was the best the best idea that I had figured out. So you can actually schedule out all your AFL week posts right now. Get them scheduled so that once AFL week rolls around, they're auto posting. And then what you get to do is just hop on and engage with the comments. You have none of the stress of writing posts each morning. So check out our AFL Week webpage for graphics you can use with your posts. You can also check out our AFL Week toolkit for idea verbiage for your posts. And again, don't forget that wonderful 2025 legislative talking points if you want some additional facts and data to tie it to. Right? Number 3. Use our 3-click software to reach out to legislators about the importance of adult education. So we have email campaigns tailored for adult ed professionals, adult learners, and alumni, and friends of adult education. And you can find the links to those on our AFL Week webpage. Since July 1st, we've had over 25,000 emails sent to members of Congress. And that is absolutely incredible. We've had over 130 videos shared to members of Congress from our adult learners. So, yeah, exactly. Go us. We are doing this. We are keeping adult education in the conversation. And I'm sure you know how hard, like how this news cycle keeps turning over and there's so much information, we have to stay top of mind. So that's a really easy way to be able to do it. It's 3 clicks or less, and that email is off to your members of Congress. Number 4, if you have an event planned or if you're planning one, please add a calendar reminder to yourself to send a review of the events and photos to add to our Padlet. Then you just need to navigate to our 2025 Padlet using our AFL Week webpage and create a new post. There's a review period, so we just go in, we check that it's not spam, and we post it. So you should see it shortly after you create that post. But while you're there, check out what has been happening across the US to raise visibility of adult ed this year. Last year, we had a total of about 438 events. We are to almost 300 already. So with each year, we are getting out there and doing even more and recording even more of it. So please make sure if your program is doing something that you document it and you share it there. And then number 5, review that Spark sheet and use that action tracker to plan out your commitment to AFL Week this year. And since we're on the topic of commitment, I do it every year. but I invite you to share your AEFL Week commitment in the chat. So what do you commit to do for AEFL Week this year? And I saved this chat. I cannot guarantee that I'm going to be able to follow up with the hundreds of individuals who share their commitment in the chat, but this is a great way to put it out there. What is it that you are going to do this AEFL week to help celebrate and advocate for adult education? And while you're typing that into the chat, while you continue to share, I'm going to turn it over to Sharon Bonney, our CEO, to say some final words.
Thank you, Erin. Thank you, everybody. It's really, really great to see the excitement and to see the engagement and to know that so many of you are standing with us as we're working really hard on the Hill at the federal level. We have many state advocate fellows who are working really hard at the state level. And then, of course, we have the local, which is a local exchange where many local program coordinators are also joining in and they're participating as well. So really at the local, state, and federal level, but then that individual level where each of you are taking action, you're engaging and getting your learners engaged, and that's amazing. I also wanted to mention, I don't know if Erin mentioned this, you probably did, and I just missed it. But there are really easy ways for your learners to take action and get involved. And just want to encourage you that, if we were able to just get even 10% of the millions of learners out there talking with legislators, just sending that video in, as she mentioned, or 3 quick clicks, or coming with you to legislative meetings after they've been prepped. I mean, what would be the result of that, right? So as we think about our collective impact together, what we can do, we know we can do some great things. We know that this field is really motivated and really excited and able to make that impact. So that would be what I would just encourage you all as I'm seeing these wonderful comments come in. I just want to encourage you all, whether you're staying local, whether you're going to your state, or whether you're coming with us to the Hill, to the Capitol Hill, we are excited about this work. We're supporting you as best as we can, and we're really excited about all that you're doing. So thank you to each of the people that presented today. I'm going to take a moment here to turn this over to Shaketa, our wonderful board president. She has really been a blessing to all of us here at COABE. Shaketa, would you like to say a few words?
Oh, thank you, Sharon. I just want to reiterate and just say thank you so much for all of you for being here, for the passion that you have for the profession of adult education, but more importantly, the passion that you have for our learners, for our communities, to be a part of a change, to be that change maker. And I also just want to recap something that Erin said earlier. Or it may have been Alysha from Pin Hill Group, but we don't have to wait to AEFL week. We know that there is a recess right now going on. So all of your decision makers are at home with you. You can make appointments. You can go out and have visits and talk to your decision makers, your policy makers within your community before they come back to DC for AEFL week. So I truly encourage you to do that and reach far and wide and bring friends with you, learners with you, and those that can speak on adult education, because this work is powerful work. It is meaningful work. And I'm just thankful that all of you are here. And until next time, we'll see you.
Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you for sharing all the incredible things that you have planned, all of your commitments in the chat. Up on the screen, you can see that AEFL Week webpage. Please make sure that you maybe favorite it, add it to your bookmark bar so it's easy for you to find links up and down the page for everything you need, the 5 things you can do, and our virtual events all there for you to see and register. So please take some time today and do that. And thank you all so much for attending. Bye.